Alright, so this is a standard Van de Graaff generator, and next to it I've got a smaller dome which is on the side insulating stand, and this smaller dome is connected to an electroscope, which is a gold leaf electroscope. There's a fine gold leaf over here, and if any charge is put on the electroscope, the leaf will deflect. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to charge up the Van de Graaff generator. And as I charge up the Van de Graaff generator, the leaves deflect. Okay, now I'm just going to discharge this, and also, but as soon as I discharge it, this has charge. And so the question is, why does this have charge? And if the dome had positive charge to start with, what kind of charge does this have? Okay. All right, so in the demonstration that I just showed you, there was a Van de Graaff generator which I've drawn on the left. There was a metallic shell on an insulating stand, and there was an electroscope. The electroscope was connected to the metallic stand. So just so it's easy to understand, everything that's blue is insulating, and everything that's black is conducting. So the Van de Graaff has an insulating stand, so does the metallic shell, and the casing of the electroscope. All of these are non-conducting. All right. So what I first did was I put some charge on the Van de Graaff generator, positive charge. And as soon as I did that, we saw that the leaves are deflecting. Why did that happen? The reason that happened was because as soon as I put positive charge on the Van de Graaff generator, electrons from the electroscope and the metallic shell all aggregated on the left side of the metallic shell. A lot of electrons aggregated over here, and that is just electrostatic induction. And as a result of that, there would be positive charges left behind on the electroscope. And that's why the leaves of the electroscope would repel each other, and the leaves would deflect. And that's exactly what we saw. The next thing that I did was that I touched the electroscope to the ground. So here's the ground. This is really the symbol for ground. And I touched the electroscope to the ground with, actually what I did was I touched it with my finger, but that's really the same thing as grounding the electroscope. And I discharged the Van de Graaff generator. And so I removed all the charge here by just touching it with that wand. I discharged the Van de Graaff generator, and then I also removed the ground connection. So I first grounded the electroscope, I discharged the Van de Graaff generator, and then also removed the ground connection. Actually, the ground connection was removed as soon as I removed my finger, but that's essentially what I did. So now we find that the electroscope is still charged. And so the question is, what kind of charge is going to be on the electroscope? And I'm just going to get rid of these charges that I've drawn over here. And let's think about what kind of charge will be left on the electroscope after this operation. Well, so when I had charge on the Van de Graaff generator, the electrons from the electroscope and the metallic shell were all over here. And I'm not redrawing the charge on the Van de Graaff, but remember that the electrons were all over here. Not all of them, but many of them were over here, which had left behind charges on the electroscope. Now, when I made the ground connection, what happened then? When I made the ground connection, electrons from the ground saw all these positive charges on the electroscope, and so they made a beeline from the ground to these positive charges, and they neutralized these positive charges. Now, the electrons that would have normally neutralized these positive charges, that would have hung out by these positive charges, are all trapped over here. And so these electrons couldn't do a thing about that. They were all trapped here, and electrons from the ground came in and neutralized all these positive charges. And I'm going to draw these electrons, the new electrons that came in from the ground. I'm just going to draw a few of them on their way, and they all got over here. So these are the new electrons from the ground. So then what happened was that I discharged the Van de Graaff generator and I removed the ground connection. And so now you can see clearly that the system consisting of the metallic shell and the electroscope have an excess of electrons. And so this process is called charging by induction. So we used induction to charge up the metallic shell and the electroscope.